Okay, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Jared Howe and Amanda, his lovely wife of 6 months. They had a wonderful wedding, and they're still talking, so that's good. Okay, Mr. Howe, his undergraduate degree came from Southwest Missouri State. He is currently enrolled in Missouri Baptist for an administrative graduate degree, and he made an A on understanding by design, so that's good. We'll be able to use that. He has taught 4 years, and actually I was thinking it was 5, but he has taught 4 years. He will receive, and this is so unusual that a non-tenured teacher would have this award, but I think that speaks to why our staff voted on him. We think so much of Mr. Howe. Some of the major areas of contribution: he helped write the character leadership curriculum. He is an advisor and sponsor of the FMS Character Council. His teaching style helps him reach students of all personalities and intelligences. He works with the community to ensure the backpacks are packed and ready to go each Friday. That's what his club does, and they work really, really hard on that. Okay, so I want to fast forward a little bit to think about Mr. Howe. I had to go here, Mr. Howe. I just had to do this. So, and you'll know this story because I just love repeating it. When we interviewed for the science position at our school, he came in and interviewed just fresh out of college, and we interviewed him. And when he left the interview, and we said, one of the teachers on the interview team said, "Can we just not find a place for him at our school?" Because when we ended up, he didn't get the job, but she was just so insistent. We just love him. We had already fallen in love with Mr. Howe, and I was thinking in my head, okay, who's going to leave next? I'm going to keep him on the radar because we want him in our school. And it was so funny because about a week and a half before school started that year, a weird twist of fate happened, and we had a science opening. And I go, all right, so I called Mr. Howe and I said, "Do you want to teach?" He goes, "Yes." There was just no hesitation. And so we got our Mr. Howe, and oh my gosh, how happy we are about that. That was probably one of the funnest things that ranked very high in the fun things that I've done as a principal, was to call him and offer him that job. Okay, since he has been at our school, he has earned the trust and respect of both young and I'll call them seasoned staff members. He volunteers quickly for committees maybe others don't want to be a part of. I mean, I can always count on who wants to be on this committee, and everybody just sits there and looks at you, Mr. Howe, as his hand up. I'll be on it, I'll be on it. Yeah. For example, our communications committee, and I don't know what you all call it at your school, but ours is communication. That's the direct line to, okay, Matt, what's the name of that committee? That goes?
PRC.
PRC, so that's our direct line to PRC. Our discussions can get pretty interesting at times. Our discussions can get a little heated and sometimes downright unprofessional. Mr. Howe is not hesitant to speak up in that calming voice of his and speak with the voice of reason. And it's amazing, teachers just stop and go, "Yeah, that's right." So, and on more occasions than I would like to admit, he has caused me to look at situations in a different way. I've witnessed him standing up for not so popular ideas, as well as standing up for other teachers. Who would not like to have a colleague like Mr. Howe having your back? And he does. He does that. A quote from one of the kids is, "Mr. Howe is an amazing science teacher and is really good at everything he does here at FMS. Let me tell you about his teaching. Mr. Howe always has a goal posted, even before this year, and I observed. He always has that up. His classroom is orderly and his students are always engaged, no matter when I walk into his room. He uses a variety of methods which our students appreciate. It's not always the same old thing. Students constantly talk about how fun his class is and then share what they learn. He has mastered the brain strategy of combining fun and learning, which is why kids like and why they learn in his classroom. When I think about the 8 pillars of character our district has adopted, I have observed Mr. Howe demonstrate each one. For a young teacher, he has emerged as a courageous leader in the short 4 years that he has taught at FMS. I have asked for our presentation to be first, and I want to tell you why. because Mr. Howe is leaving very shortly for Nashville, where he will be running a marathon on Saturday. Something that shows a tremendous amount of training and perseverance. Again, traits that we teach to our students. Just some of the quotes that other colleagues and kids have said about him. This is from a colleague. And this is from a seasoned colleague. I have learned more from him about patience, handling difficult students, alternative teaching strategies, and creating engaging lessons than I had in my previous 8 years of teaching. Another colleague, he leads by example in exhibiting grace, yet being accountable for his actions. And from a student, and I love this one, I catch Mr. Howe doing good deeds for our school all the time. So it is with great pride to award the honor of Farmington Middle School Teacher of the Year candidate to Mr. Howe, and good luck tomorrow, Mr. Howe. Thank you.
And before you do, the certificates are on.
Oh, okay, sorry. And he is going to get up and leave unless, because I told him the school district would not pay the speeding tickets.
Well, and Jared, they may want a couple of pictures.
Oh, okay.
I want to talk about Mrs. Rachel Peppers. It's our Truman Teacher of the Year candidate. Today, Mrs. Peppers, she joined our staff with the Truman Kindergarten Center in 1998. Prior to 1998, Mrs. Peppers taught kindergarten for Alexander Elementary School in Oklahoma. During her tenure, she has worked as a class within a classroom with sped students, and she works hard to identify the strengths and weaknesses of her students. One of her students that comes to mind is a little girl who struggled greatly in summer school. We knew that. Actually, Mrs. Weekly talked to me about her, and we sat down and had conversations prior to kindergarten, and she has made the most progress. I mean, she has blossomed and developed into a very strong kindergarten student, and that's mostly because Mrs. Peppers has been very nurturing, very caring, but yet also very, very strict in following up with her special area teachers, her recess duty teachers, her cafeteria teachers, because she holds her accountable along every step of the day. So she's made great progress with this little girl. Students, parents, and colleagues alike highlight Mrs. Peppers again for her caring, nurturing personality. When we asked the students what they could say about Mrs. Peppers, her student quickly said, "I love her." Her caring heart and dedication to challenge her students show each day in her lessons and her classroom. Mrs. Peppers wears a smile every day and welcomes her students to a very positive learning environment. Mrs. Peppers is probably one of the most humble teachers you will ever meet. She, to the extent that yesterday at parent pickup, we were sitting and I said, we've got our luncheon tomorrow, Mrs. Peppers, and she said, I just really think people deserve this. And obviously you do. Your peers picked you for a reason. So over the last 20 years, Mrs. Peppers has worked on several committees, has been trained on several different programs. Some of these include Pathways, PBS, Data Team, Wellness Committee, Social Committee, and she's been a mentor to several student teachers. Every evening, you'll find Mrs. Peppers in her classroom because I'm there late every evening, and I always know that 2 doors down, Mrs. Peppers is in her classroom working the same amount of time that I'm staying late. Truman Kindergarten would like to congratulate Mrs. Peppers. We're very proud of her and her accomplishments. Mrs. Peppers represents Truman Kindergarten well. Thank you, Mrs. Peppers, for touching the lives of our kindergartners and providing them a solid foundation of learning.
You're welcome. I'm the assistant principal of Jefferson, and I'm introducing Denise Boots as our teacher of the year nominee. Denise has graduated from the University of Kansas, working with our special education students there. She complements our fourth grade team very well as a co-teacher, working with our SPED students and many other students. And never just work with certain students. They join them all, but they share all the students. It was really no surprise to me that Denise was nominated for this. And it was really no surprise to me when more than one teacher in our group nominated Denise as the teacher of the year. So I got more than one application completely filled out for her. So that was very much shows that the teachers in our school respect her and appreciate the work that she does in our school. Kind words for Mrs. Boots. She's probably one of the most caring, compassionate teachers that I've ever met. She goes above and beyond every single day for those kids. And just like Mrs. Peppers, Mrs. Boots is there. She'll leave, but she comes back. And I know that because, yes, just like Ms. Johnson, I'm there too sometimes at night. And she and I have had several little chats in the evening, and all focused around what's best for kids. And she handles all her students with respect. And she's a great mom for her students, teaching them how to learn and how to be good people, have good character. All I can say about Mrs. Boots, she's just wonderful. She brought along her husband, Mr. Boots, too. Congratulations.
Okay, well, I have the honor today to recognize Amanda Sullivan as Washington Franklin's Teacher of the Year. Washington Franklin is proud to recognize one of its outstanding teachers who works diligently to promote academic success among all of our kids. She's married to Patrick Sullivan, who's able to come today, so thank you, Patrick. She has 3 children who are 6, 7, and 8. Okay, Sean, Aubrey, and Olivia, so 6, 7, 8. Her hands are quite full. Even though she's busy at home with these 3 young children, she still manages to run an effective classroom. Her students make not only academic growth, but also know they're cared for by Mrs. Sullivan. She's an alumni of the Farmington School District. She graduated from Central Methodist University. And prior to working at the Farmington School District, she was the co-owner of a daycare for 6 years. She joined us in 2011 as a 4th grade teacher. She is a team player when it comes to working with her colleagues. She's organized, flexible, and passionate about her students and teaching. Mrs. Sullivan has served on the math committee for the elementary sector for the past 4 years. She's a leader when it comes to effectively implementing curriculum. She's willing to try new things and take risks in her classroom. She has embraced learning skills and effectively monitoring students in her classroom. And I have to say, this is really the first year we've dived into eye observation, a new way of doing some things. And this is my sounding board, because if I'm not correct, or if I need a little bit of encouragement or a go-to person, this is the one to tell me exactly what needs to happen and what she does, and she really helps. So she's been a really good person in that aspect. She's also part of the original pilot classroom for implementing iPads into the elementary section. She's a leader when it comes to technology. She's constantly working to find the next best thing out there. One of her greatest strengths is that she's a willing learner, and she is open to trying new things. Her interactions and relationships she has with students is remarkable. When I asked her kids to kind of summarize Mrs. Sullivan for me, they said, Mrs. Sullivan's the best. She teaches us every day, and whenever one of us gets stuck and don't understand, she never stops. And she won't go on until all of us start understanding and are getting it. She will always help somebody if they need it. She is super nice and an awesome teacher. Mrs. Sullivan is a fabulous example of reaching every student every day. Outstanding classroom management, effective communication, and genuine care for her students along the way with establishing a safe and learning environment is just one of the many reasons that we have selected you, Ms. Sullivan, as Washington Franklin's Teacher of the Year. Congratulations.
It is my privilege to it is my privilege to introduce Miss Sally McDonald. Sally's husband came with us today. Jim is in the audience. If you give her about 3 seconds, she will brag about her daughter Kim, who lives in Hawaii. And I don't even know where to start, but let's get started. Sally started off her career and she knew what she wanted to do. She wanted to work with little kids. She went to Mizzou, and about 2 years into her secondary education, she met and fell in love with and married Jim. Shortly thereafter, Kim came, and Sally decided that it would be best for her and her family that she stayed home and raised her child. So she stopped her career, at least temporarily, like 15 years. Stayed home and she raised her daughter. Along the way, though, professions couldn't be tamed. She started working at Window Tree Preschool, where I understand Ms. Sullivan also worked. So she continued to work at the preschool while raising her daughter. About the time her daughter hit her senior year of high school, Mrs. McDonald decided it was time for her to re-pursue her own dreams. So she went to Central Methodist University, where she received her bachelor's degree in elementary and early childhood education. We were lucky enough as a district to find and hire her then as a paraprofessional first, and then shortly after that as a kindergarten teacher. She remained a kindergarten teacher for several years, but her passion started going to other ways that she could help kids outside of the classroom. She went back to school to Southeast Missouri, where she received her master's degree in counseling and became a counselor at Trim Kindergarten. They had her for a very short time until Roosevelt opened in 2002, where she was snatched up and brought over, and they have not let her go since. She tells us that her career is about to come to a close. We think there's still hope that we can keep her around for much longer. Some of the things the kids have said about her, let's face it, these are cute because they're kids. Without Mrs. McDonald, our school would be covered up in frowns and probably have to shut down. Because no one would be able to focus, they would all be so sad. And then there's future. She has helped me move on from the troubles that I had. She got me thinking about my future instead of my past. She even gave me information about the Air Force, which I'm interested in doing someday. Then the last one, and this must have been a well-spoken young woman. She has always been so kind, respectful, patient, and understanding with me. Sally does a lot of things in our building, and as we know, map season is about to begin, and everybody thinks counselors, they think assessments. The very smallest part of her job is really assessments. Although right now she would say it's consuming her. What she does every day, and we do the duties so everybody knows, and she says, I want front door duty in the morning. I'm like, okay, sounds weird, but why? Because you have to come in like early and all that kind of stuff, and she goes, because I get to meet every kid as they come in the door. I get to say hi, I get to assess how they're feeling, and if they're down, I can start to address that immediately so it doesn't ruin their day. I'm like, wow, that's your duty for life. Also, attendance is big in our district. Sally said, hey, I've got a 5-day club. So we identify students who have some particular challenges in that area, and she arranges the 5-day club. And she meets with them weekly. They talk about strategies for improving their attendance. They celebrate their attendance successes, and they bond as a small group. She also has the lunch bunch, the small groups, and some of you may know that, particularly around this time of year, and 4th grade girls, and sometimes they have emotions and issues that cause disruption in the work environment. They go on to Lincoln Middle School, so I'm sure you guys have seen them there. Sally's plan is to address these things with me, and so she has the group during the lunchtime where they can come, talk about their issues, work out their problems, so that it's not interfering with their learning, and it's done in a constructive manner. Sally has been, and I couldn't believe this, but yes, 35 years in helping children. So it is, for all of these reasons and many, many more, that the Roosevelts is very proud to announce Sally as our Teacher of the Year.
Just to piggyback off what Mr. Thompson said, Sally, I know you pointed to me you have one more year, but until you get those girl issues solved in one grade, move on, you can stick around.
The drama club is the
I'm Angie Winch, and I'm the principal at Lincoln Intermediate, and I am very, very proud to recognize Faith Gann as our Teacher of the Year for Lincoln. Today, her daughter Jennifer joins us to celebrate with her this recognition. I'm sure Jimmy would have loved to have been here, and I'm sure Jessica, her daughter, would have loved to have been here, but she is now hired. What a great start in a new career in Florida, doing some recreational administration in that sunny state. So, and Faith, over spring break, decided to post her pictures of that beautiful state and her beachfront view, and really enjoyed rubbing that in our face. Thanks. Faith is a graduate and an alumni of Farmington School District. She graduated in 1986 and then began her teaching career at Farmington High School in 1993. In 2003, let's back up. At high school, she taught our students who have special needs and continued working with basically all students, as somebody else mentioned earlier, when she transferred over to Roosevelt in 2003. She was there for a short 2 years when she blessed the third grade team at Washington Brakeland. And during her tenure as a classroom teacher, she worked diligently to identify the strengths and weaknesses of each student so that she can aid their academic success. And it says academic success, but you need to know Faith does the whole child. When she looks for what a child needs to work on or what she can do to help them, it's not just academics. Don't do that, because we're both going to. Now, Mrs. Gann manages the hub of Lincoln Intermediate as our library specialist. See, it's tough. She, as everyone knows, the library in any building is your hub or your culture for your building. And she has definitely worked hard to create that family culture for Lincoln. Parents and students and colleagues take great pride and total confidence in describing her as always calm and concerned about every student. And she's the kind of person you can't help but smile at when you pass her by in the hallways. She always says hi and has a positive attitude about things, which rubs off on those around her. She is well liked by all because we know she would do anything for any one of us if we asked her to. Her students love her. They say she helps me find books I can read. She has started Genius Hour during library, and I love it. So, she's always on the cutting edge of what we should be doing with our kids, and she's not afraid to take those risks and try implementing those new programs. According to your colleagues, Faith, this is one I really love, that a statement about you that one of them typed or sent in. To have the ability to inspire one person in a lifetime is a great achievement. But imagine inspiring numerous people each year. That is exactly what Faith Ian does with her students. She inspires them to read, to learn, to be creative, and to be better people. Mrs. Gann always puts her heart and soul into her teaching and her students. She has a knack for knowing what book they might be interested in, or if something is bothering them that day. She builds strong relationships with her students. She knows they can count on her for anything. Not only does she inspire her students, she also sets high expectations for them. She wants them to push the limits, to step out of their comfort zone, and she makes it known that that's what she expects of them. That's what we all do, and that's what a Teacher of the Year should be doing. Mrs. Gann's work ethic and professionalism is also seen by her involvement in many PD activities, professional development activities. She's in charge of the staff social committee. She's a part of our building advisory committee, and she is always there to help with any after-school activities. Faith represents many of the individuals employed by the Farmington School District who make a positive impact on the learning environments of our students. However, today, she deserves to be the shining star of Lincoln. And we thank you for touching the lives of our kids, every student and every day. You're welcome.
So the high school's teacher of the year is Tiffany Mosher. She's here with her husband, Mike, who's in the back. The first time I ever spoke with Tiffany was over the phone. I was at a high schools at work conference. There I was in downtown Charlotte, some hotel lobby, minding my own business, when one of our geometry teachers, Jane Harris, handed me a phone and said, "This is another teacher. She teaches geometry. She's trying to figure out how to do a flipped classroom and she needs your help." She hands me the phone and that's all I've got. And on the other end, presumably here in Farmington, I guess in Bonne Terre, I hear Tiffany say, "Well, I'm trying to figure out how to do this flipped classroom thing, and I've got the computer working, and I can record my face, but I need to be able to show the kids how to do the work, and I need to have a way to point the camera down at my hands, and I just can't get this thing to work. So I think you have to buy me something."
I've always been curious. I have to buy me that.
So, over this past year, I've had the opportunity to serve on a steering committee for something called Reinvent Special Ed. And as I've had a chance to talk with administrators from all over the state about what Reinvent Special Ed means, then they've begun to describe and put together a vision where education takes place on a continuum and there's not a real clear divide between regular and special education, where every kid walks into the classroom, the teacher figures out where they are and meets them at that spot and makes it happen. And the kids don't even necessarily know who has an IEP and who doesn't. It's really about high quality instruction instead of compliance and just meeting the requirements of an IEP. And as I sat around with these people, I realized that they were painting a picture, unknowingly of course, of what was actually happening in Tiffany's room already. Those kids don't have any idea who has an IEP and who doesn't, although in fact, in many instances, almost half of them do. They're all in there learning together. When I started asking the kids about what made Mrs. Mosher special, some of them said some interesting things. One said, frankly, she frightens me. I don't want to talk about it. But another one said, you know, she's not really, it's like she's not a teacher, but she's not a kid either. We just walk into the room and we're all there, so we should do math and we just have fun with it. One of the kids who does have an IEP says, you know, I've got the highest grade I've ever had in math, and I think it's my highest grade for all of my classes. I hate math, but I know I like Mrs. Mosher. One of the kids told me that she's never asked Mrs. Mosher a question when Mrs. Mosher didn't have the time to explain it to her. So time and time again, what these folks at the state level are trying to recreate, trying to produce on a broad spectrum, Tiffany already knows how to do. So it's a unique gift that she has. She really does take care of each and every kid, each and every day, and the kids, without a doubt, know it, even if she does frighten them.
Strategy.
One of them, this is true, one of them said, Tiffany or Mrs. Moser can get away with saying things that nobody else can. I didn't follow that one up. She serves on committees. She does a lot of fantastic things in the school. And over time, even though this is, I guess, just her 4th or 5th year, she has become a go-to for the faculty because she knows how to do what it is she says we should be doing. If you want to know how to integrate technology, you go talk to Tiffany. If you want to know how to take care of kids with an IEP, you go talk to Tiffany. If you need to know how to take care of those really high-end kids and keep them engaged, you go talk to Tiffany. As one of our special ed teachers observed, she hopes Mrs. Moser gets the respect she deserves. She is a tremendously valuable member of the faculty and an absolute game changer for a lot of our kids in a subject area that really is pretty difficult for them. So she has more than earned this, and like I said, she's just a tremendously valuable member of the faculty. Tremendous asset. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Okay, and this is Farrell, and I'm managing my course. So I'm here, I'm CTA president, and I'm here to represent Farmington Teacher of the Year for our district. And I would like to also give them this from CTA and from the district. And before I do that, this is in here. The centerpieces on your tables are for each teacher. You can take that with you. That is appreciation from your CTA for your hard work. So Miss Sally McDonald, would you come up here? And also, Ms. Lowe also wanted me to remind you that the teachers needed to stick around just for a little bit to get some interviews and some pictures. Thank you. Thank you.
When you want to mix it up right, you need the tastiest choices around. And McDonald's Dollar Menu and More has always got your back. Feeling like a classic? Try the one and only McChicken, still just $1. Or you can always turn it up with the great tasting McDouble. Plus other delicious hits, all for a price you can't beat. Whatever your flavor, the Dollar Menu and More is just what you need to keep you moving. There's something for everyone to love at McDonald's.